Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video, we are going over the final and most intense part of the War for Paradis arc from Isayama's Attack on Titan. This arc consistently had me hooked and wishing that it had picked up the manga earlier on, to the point that I completed reading it within the first few hours of actually picking up the manga itself. It truly was an awe-defining experience in which I don't think many other series will ever be able to compare to. So if you have enjoyed my previous video on the first half of this arc and want to watch more explained content just like this, but for a variety of different series, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also be sure to leave a like on the video, as it really helps out with pushing my stuff to a bunch of new amazing people. Also, I would like to thank today's sponsor for this video, Fandomaniax. Honestly, after the recent events on my channel, I've been completely unable to afford my usual intake of anime merch that I physically live off. But thankfully, Fandomaniax has reached out to me and decided to send me an entire wardrobe of literally top tier merch. Just like this amazing AOT blanket, which comes with an added level of agility to escape your mother when she is in Titan form. Of course, they also have a bunch of amazing items from tons of different series like Jujutsu Kaisen and Attack on Titan, to literally a collaboration between the animation lords themselves of the East, Demon Slayer and Pokemon. So if you are interested and want to get a discount on your next order on Fandomaniax, then make sure you use my link down in the description below and use Diavolo10 to get 10% off on your next order of ethereal anime merch. But anyway, enough of that, let's get into part 2 of the War for Paradis arc of Attack on Titan. As the remnants of their survey corps and the warriors plan their next move, both Hange and Magath spy on the Yeagerists occupying the harbour. When Magath is surprised that the flying boat is still intact, Hange theorizes that the Yeagerists are keeping it because they do not want to destroy the technology that the Azumabito family possesses. However, they would likely destroy it if they knew of the group that was outside the harbour. Even with the power of the Titans, stopping them will be difficult. The group deliberates over their attack plan and the casualties that will likely happen. Annie is initially unconcerned about the Azumabitos, but Anya and Kopon plans to have their engineers prepare the flying boat. Both the boat and the Azumabitos have to be protected. However, the Survey Corps members would like to avoid killing the Yeagerists, which presents the group with a conundrum on how they should accomplish their objectives. Connie protests and Armin does not volunteer an alternative plan. Annie muses over how the Survey Corps members would not have chosen to destroy the wall if they had been in the same situation that the warriors were in. Reiner remembers when Eren told him how he was just like Reiner. He wonders if that was what Eren had meant. Annie and Reiner mutually decide to let their Survey Corps sit out the fight. However, Hange is not interested in sitting out themselves. They spotted the Wall Titans crossing the ocean and believe that the Titans have already arrived on the northeastern parts of Marley, destroying the nearest cities. Magath pushes his way over to Yelena and covers her mouth while he breaks her arm. He demands that she reveal where Eren Yeager is hiding. Yelena responds that if they bring her along, she might tell them where. Anya and Kopon is against torturing her, but Magath only stops after seeing Gabbie watching him. He then apologizes for his behavior the previous night and admits that the Paradis Island residents should not be judged for their ancestors' actions. Magath then addresses the warriors and agrees that they should not be burdened with the world's hatred either, but he considers it his responsibility to ensure that the future generations are aware of their history, and for that, they will need to stop Eren. He asks their Survey Corps members to look over his actions, but Armin refuses because they are getting their hands dirty. As Flock looks out the window of the building where he is holding the Azumabitos, he doubts history has ever changed as much in one day as it has now. Hizuru will be wiped out along with the rest of the world and paints it as a benefit to Kiyomi since the world will be reborn without troubling matters. She and her engineers just need to contribute to the island, especially if she does not wish to lose any more men. Kiyomi says that he is just making their world a smaller place and that they will continue to kill each other as usual, but Flock brushes it aside and says that it is important to know one's place, and if it comes to it, they do not need the Azumabito's technology. He points the barrel of his gun to her temple as he reiterates the necessity of knowing one's place. However, his discussion with her is cut short by the arrival of Armin and Connie on horseback. They call out to him under the pretense of chasing the cart and armored Titan who had fled south. Armin says that they need the Azumabitos to prepare the flying boat so that they can follow them. But Flock is confused, and Armin plays up the urgency by claiming that Jean and Anya and Kopon have been killed. When Connie points out the boat, Armin makes one last shout for Flock to send engineers before they ride over. The two of them are surprised to find that their former training court friends, Daz and Samuel, have joined the Yeagerists and that the flying boat has been rigged with explosives. Armin presses Samuel and Daz to disconnect them with the same urgency he used with Flock. but Samuel tries to calm him down, saying that they are suspicious that Connie and Armin are working with Marley. They dispute that though, pretending to take offense. Despite his misgivings though, Daz decides to listen to Armin and Connie and disconnects the explosives from the detonator. Armin is anxious since this means that all they need are the engineers and then they can accomplish their mission without bloodshed. Flock does not buy Armin and Connie's story though. Inside the building with his hostages, he decides that he will eliminate his concerns and aims his gun at one of the engineers. Kiyomi intercepts him as he fires, saving the engineer, but not before everyone notices the sound of gunfire. Flock calls out for other Yeagerists to kill her, but Mikasa dives in through a window to protect Kiyomi. In the fight, Flock manages to escape outside and alerts the Yeagerists about the traitors among them. Mikasa realizes that they are going to shoot thunder spears into the building and herds the Azumabitos towards the basement where they meet up with Jean, Hange, and Magath. Seeing the ruckus break out, Daz begins reconnecting the explosives. Armin tries to stop him, but is shot by Samuel. When Connie tries to help him, Samuel tells him not to move. He urges Daz to hurry up and blow up the boat. Connie tries to reason with him, but Samuel brings up the old conversation that the 104th Training Corps had about taking more land for themselves and sharing meat together. Upset, Samuel wonders how it had come to this. Kiyomi and Flock independently consider the usefulness of hiding in the basement, and the reasoning for that positioning becomes clear when Reiner and Annie transform into their titans. As the armoured and female titan fight the Yeagerists, Connie struggles with Samuel, who he tackled during the surprise attack. Armin regains consciousness, enough to try to stop Daz from reconnecting the explosives. Frightened, Daz grabs his gun and points it at Armin's head. Samuel calls Connie a traitor and brings up how they used to be on the same side, which reminds Connie and Armin of the questions they had of Berthold when he and Reiner had tried to kidnap Eren. Connie screams and yanks away Samuel's gun, which he uses to kill Daz, saving Armin's life. He then, with tears in his eyes, shoots and kills Samuel as well. Daz's body falls into the water as a severely injured Armin reaches out to the sinking body. Connie looks at a severely injured Armin with tears in his eyes, while Samuel's corpse, with 2 bullets in the head and 1 underneath the eye, lies on the floor. Inside the building where the Yeagerists had held the Azumabitos, Hange is taken aback upon hearing from the engineers that it would require a minimum of half a day to repair the flying boat for travel. Magath does not believe that they could hold off the harbour for that long, since the armoured and female Titan's powers only last for a few hours. Hange reluctantly concludes that they are too late. With half a day's delay, the Wall Titans could travel 600 kilometers inland, from where they would make landfall and trample the continent within 4 days. Even in the best case scenario, it would already be too late for Liberio. Kiyomi is momentarily stunned, but presents an alternative plan, where she suggests that they take one of the ships into the harbour and tow the flying boat to the coastal Marleyan city of Odiha, where they can prepare and service it ahead of the rumbling. Though Odiha will be in the path of the rumbling, Kiyomi believes that it will be possible to get there before the Titans do. Magath agrees to the plan, and Hange and Jean split up to inform the others about the change of plans. Mikasa hooks onto the female Titan in the middle of combat to notify Annie, and to cover the engineers while they prepare to board. Flock orders the nearby Yeagerists to shoot the Azumabito service crew, only for the Yeagerists to be killed by Hange and Mikasa. Flock is initially confused over where the engineers are going, but he quickly realizes that they are heading for the ship and are planning to take the flying boat with them. In desperation, he orders his soldiers to gather all the available thunder spears and sink the ship. Meanwhile, Annie and Reiner use their titans to protect the Azumabitos, and Magath while blocking multiple thunder spears and gunshots from the anti-titan gear with their bodies. Realizing that the two of them will not be able to hold out before the ship sails, Falco tells Peak that he should be fighting with the Jaw Titan, but she disagrees, saying that his first transformation will not go well. So instead, she will be fighting with her Cart Titan after she takes her passengers to the ship. However, that does not stop Falco from thinking about Porco's sacrifice and what he would have done in this situation. This thought instigates Falco to dash into the fray, ignoring Peak's reasonings. Connie helps a badly wounded Armin up to Magath at the gateway to the ship. He leaves his friend with Magath. As he leaves, Peak arrives through the water with her passengers Yelena, Onion Copon, Gabbie and Levi. Elsewhere, on the rooftops, Mikasa tells Hange that they need to help Armin and Reiner, but Hange spots a full train of Yeagerist reinforcements that they will need to stop. Before they can though, an explosion derails the train. Down on the ground, Jean tells Falco to hurry and get onto the ship, while Falco is busy cutting open his palm with a nail. The battle becomes more desperate as the Survey Corps tries to protect the battered Titans, which are no longer able to move or see. Peak's Cart Titan joins the fray, and Flock rallies his team to fight against her and their human enemies. During the fight, Falco runs into the combat zone and transforms into the Jaw Titan. Seeing the flash, Gabbie is stunned that Falco has transformed. The chaos caused by Falco's Jaw Titan breaks the Yeagerists' ranks, allowing the Survey Corps to get the upper hand. After seeing his fellow Yeagerists dying at the hand of their Survey Corps and warriors, Flock desperately manages to escape the battlefield and aims a Thunder Spear at the ship's hull, stating that he will be the one to save Odiha. However, Gabbie shoots his arm from her position on the ship's deck with her rifle, throwing off his arm, and the Thunder Spear plows harmlessly into the water where it explodes, causing Flock to plummet into the water below as well. Once they are ready to leave, Onyankopon calls everyone to the ship and the group prepares to depart when suddenly, Falco begins attacking the Survey Corps and Peak with his Jaw Titan. Peak tries to calm him down, but to no avail as Falco bites Peak, almost ripping her nape. Magath runs up and asks her to hold down Falco. When she does, Magath uses a blade from the maneuvering equipment to cut Falco out. He praises the boy, who becomes unconscious soon after. Magath carries him back to the ship alongside Hange helping an injured Peak, Annie being carried by Mikasa, and Reiner being carried by Jean and Connie. Magath hands an unconscious Falco to Onyankopon. When everyone else gets on board, Magath orders them to leave him behind so that he can bring up the rear. After the ship sets sail, some of the remaining Yeagerists try shooting Magath, but are stopped by Keith, who had previously derailed the train. He asks why Magath is still here, to which he replies by pointing out the captured Marleyan cruiser in the harbour. Magath intends to get rid of it before the Yeagerists can use it to catch up with his allies, and Keith agrees to help. The two barricade themselves in the cruiser's magazine, and Magath prepares to ignite a pile of gunpowder. He advises Keith to leave the ship while he still can, but Keith declines and resolves to stay as he was looking for a way to die as it is. When Magath asks why he chose to help, Keith tells him about how he saw Annie with his other students and that showed him how much they had grown. Magath reflects on the time with the warrior unit and how he had trained them to destroy the walls, only to realise that he would have been happy if they had all lived normal lives instead of following orders. Though he might not be proud of himself, Keith says that he is proud of Magath and the warriors probably are too. As the Yeagerists attempt to enter the magazine room, the two of them finally introduce themselves to each other, after which, Magath ignites the gunpowder stock by improperly firing Keith's rifle. While the escaping ship's passengers watch in horror, a large mushroom cloud billows into the sky as the cruiser ship sinks. On board of the ship, Hange tries to reason with a distraught Annie who has been held back by Mikasa and Jean. Hange explains that they have no time to save Liberio, which is why they are heading for Odiha. Annie sags to the floor, disheartened at the thought of losing her father. Without him, she no longer has a reason to fight anymore. Hange tries to convince Annie to continue fighting, saying that Magath understood that Liberio and Marley could not be saved, but he sacrificed himself anyway, so that the rest of them could save as many people as possible. This prompts Annie to circle back to a question which she had asked him before. Will the Survey Corps be able to kill Eren? And if she tried to kill him, would they be able to sit back and watch? However, shortly after, Annie's demeanor weakens as she says that she no longer wants to fight or be prepared to kill Mikasa, the rest of the Survey Corps, or Eren for that matter. Elsewhere, Eren wonders which events set him on his current path and quickly decides that it does not matter. He recalls his secret meeting with Yelena, where she explained Zeke's plans to euthanize the subjects of Ymir. Later, he told Flock that he would pretend to follow Zeke's plan and asked Flock to do the same. However, Eren told Flock that in reality, his plan was to destroy the rest of the world in order to put an end to the cycle of hatred. Eren secretly visited Historia and warned her that the military police brigade was moving forward with its plan to turn her into a Titan and feed Zeke to her once he arrived at Paradis Island, giving her the Beast Titan. Historia was aware, but did not see a need to fight or run like Eren suggested. She would go with the most reliable plan to ensure the island's survival, and that Eren defending her when the plan first came up was enough for her. However, that was not enough for Eren. He confided in his plan to her, and Historia vehemently objected on the basis that not everyone outside the island is the enemy. People would be killed without any idea why. Eren understood this, but said it was the only way to end the cycle of revenge born from hate, by removing all history of hate in the world. His plan would also end the cycle of children eating their parents to inherit the power of the Titans, which was what the military would do with her. Historia felt that she could not live with herself if she did not do everything in her power to stop him. Eren then suggested the idea of using the Founding Titan's powers to manipulate her memories if enduring them would be too much for her, but believed she could stay quiet until his plan came to pass because she was the one who saved him back in the underground cavern, as the self-described worst girl in the world. Historia was shocked by this and then asked Eren what he would think about her having a child. Eren remembers talking with Zeke and Marley, asking about headaches in the Ackerman clan. Zeke had never heard of any sorts of imprinting behaviour that causes an Ackerman to protect a host and suspected that it was just Mikasa's affection towards Eren. He then asked Eren on how he planned to talk to Mikasa, but Eren replied that there was no point as he would only live for another 4 years. Eren recalled the damage he did to his body, which included cutting off his foot with a blunt blade and forcing a bullet into his eye to pretend to be a gravely wounded soldier. He then thought about his friends and the refugees he had met and said that he would want them to live a long, happy life. In the present, the global allied fleet makes a stand against the approaching wall of Titans in Port Akrifa. However, their cannons are ineffective, and the Titans can scorch a ship's crew to death by swimming underneath it, so that the heat of their bodies turn the water around the ships into steam. On land, soldiers attempt a similar futile artillery barrage from the harbour before retreating to higher ground. Some of them turn back in fear and see the gargantuan skeletal shape of Eren's modified attack titan approaching from behind the line of the wall titans. As Eren marches into Marley, he remembers his mother's death and the vow that he made that day to keep pushing forward without stopping until he destroys every last one of his enemies in the world, while the Wall Titans make landfall and begin the destruction of Marley. On the continent of Marley, Halil and Ramsey, 2 refugee children, look over some stolen money Ramsey has hidden beneath a tree. Halil is concerned because Ramsey has already lost his right hand due to being caught stealing and could lose his other one if he is caught again, which would make their grandfather sad. However, Ramsey is undeterred because too many people will not be able to survive the winter in their refugee tents. He asks Halil to give the money to his family if he dies. Though they are outside the city, many townspeople run past them, much to their surprise. As the boys ponder the reason, they notice that the ground is starting to rumble around them. They look over the hill they are on and see a massive flock of birds flying overhead, with shapes moving in the distance. Eren thinks back on his early days in Marley, when he was seeing its people for the first time, knowing that one day he would kill everyone there. He wonders if that future would come to pass because they never found a way for Paradis Island to survive. He also wondered what his mother would think of if the King of the Walls had been right that Eldians were the ones who ought to die. More people outside the island would have to die than if the Eldians died, but Eren found he could not accept an outcome like that. While in his thoughts, he spotted Ramsey getting beaten by merchants. He intended to intervene, but realised that he could not when he realised that he would eventually kill Ramsey someday. Eren saved Ramsey regardless though, and took the boy back to the refugee camp. Though he was disappointed to see that the future did not change, Eren compared himself to Reiner and the latter's conflicted sense of morality, but claimed to be worse than him. He apologised to Ramsey, knowing the things he would eventually do. Back in the present, Ramsey and Halil join the other refugees running from the Wall Titans destroying the town. The crowd tries escaping to higher ground, but a man notices a group of Titans lumbering near a mountain range cutting off their escape. They huddle in fear, despairing that the Marleyans had fled without telling them what was coming. Ramsey proclaims that they cannot give up hope just yet. The 2 boys join some refugees fleeing back into the city. On the way, Ramsey drops his money and Halil attempts to retrieve it. Ramsey grabs him and they try to run, but Halil's head is crushed by debris kicked up by the feet of the oncoming Titan. Trapped by debris himself, Ramsey sees an apparition amidst the chaos as he is crushed by the foot of a Titan. Not far ahead, the remaining refugees pound at the shuttered wall that traps them within the city and the path of the Titan's destruction. From his position behind the Wall of Titans, Eren remembers seeing a different wall in a time when Armin would tell him about flaming water, frozen plains, and snowfields on sand. He thought that anyone who saw such things would be the freest person in the world, and that being outside of the walls would be freedom. A youthful Eren revels in the sensation of freedom as Marleyan homes and people are crushed beneath the Titans. He says that they are here at last and this is the sight that they wanted, before turning to Armin for confirmation. However, the Armin that receives Eren's glance is an adult in the paths, shirt stained with blood from his last battle. He stares in surprise at Eren until Annie's voice calls him back to reality. She offers him a seat next to her and thanks him for the time he spent talking to her while she was in her crystal. Back then, listening to him and Hitch was the only thing that she could look forward to, but she does not understand why he did it in the first place. She suggests that there must have been more entertaining girls for him to spend his time with, but Armin says it is because he wanted to see her, and is surprised that she has not thought it even after Hitch's teasing. Annie concludes that Armin spoke to a monster because he is a good person who wants to avoid conflict, but Armin reminds her that he does not like being called that. He killed a lot of people and has been a monster himself for a long time now. He shares with Annie the dream he and Eren had of seeing the outside world, but Annie correctly concludes that it was not what they thought it would be. Armin agrees that it was not, but he still hopes that the unknown world that they were looking for is out there beyond the walls. Elsewhere, Eren rests within the Founding Titan. The Survey Corps and the warrior unit arrive in Odiha and find the city deserted. Hange begins to ask the Azumabito family if they can ready the flying boats before the rumbling crosses the nearby mountains, and Kiyomi says that they will, no matter what it takes. She then asks Hange to save Hizuru. The combined group lugs the flying boat into a hangar where the Azumabito engineers can begin their preparation work. When they need to remove the explosives previously rigged around the boat, Armin suggests keeping them for later use instead of throwing them away. Meanwhile, Pete comforts Falco as he comes to terms with Magarth's death and the destruction of Liberio. The rumbling has already covered the majority of Marley. In a panic, Falco asks Pete what they are supposed to do, but she holds her head, saying that she does not know. Outside, Mikasa tries to persuade Annie to try on the new maneuvering equipment since she is not used to it, but Annie says she is done. She does not understand saving humanity when the humanity they are trying to save has been the ones persecuting Marleyan Eldians like her father for her entire life. Even if they stopped the rumbling, Marley has already fallen, so there will be no one to protect them. Annie feels sorry for people like the Azumabitos, but she no longer has it in her to fight. Mikasa notices Annie looking at Armin, and she states she wants to live in peace, and Mikasa asks a blushing Annie when it had started, but backs down and says she is fine with Annie's decision. However, she lets Annie know that Armin is coming with them on the flying boat. Annie knows this, and asks if they intend to kill Eren to save humanity. Mikasa says that she is not killing him, but will instead bring him back. As Mikasa walks away, Annie notices that she is no longer wearing the scarf Eren gave her. Mikasa pauses and says that she still has it, but is choosing not to wear it right now. On the ship, Armin finds Levi trying to walk around and attempts to get him back in bed. Levi is obstinate and lets Armin know that Yelena seems to have woken up from her fever. They see Yelena, and she recounts her discussion of the global allied fleet's military capabilities with Eren. Rather than the fleet, what worried her was the flying boat research base at Fort Salta. Yelena suspects that will be Eren's next target, to destroying the flying boats that could potentially be a threat. She asks those present to admit that Zeke's euthanization plan was right, especially given the circumstances that they are now facing. Hange does, adding that Eren had no solutions or future for them either. Outside the hangar, Pieck asks Kiyomi to take care of Gabbie and Falco. They might not be completely safe on the ship, but it would be better than carrying them on the flying boat. Pieck plans to lock them in their room and asks Kiyomi to not let them out until the group has departed. Somber, Pieck says that she needs to pay back her fallen comrades. An hour before takeoff, Hange has the Survey Corps inspect their equipment and Levi participates, checking the grip of his blades with a shaky hand, even though he is missing multiple fingers. To everyone's concerned looks, he says that 2 fingers is all he needs. Off to the side, Annie asks her fellow warriors if she is going to be the only one running away. Pieck tells her not to worry, and Reiner apologizes for forcing the start of their operation when they were kids. If they had turned back then, she and Berthold might have been able to see their families again. Annie agrees and tells him that she does not know how many times she stopped short of trying to kill him. They embrace, and Reiner asks her to take care of Gabbie and Falco for him. Annie waves goodbye to everyone and regards Armin sadly before turning away. Mikasa asks Armin if he is okay with this, and he says he is glad, though he looks down a moment later. Hange asks if everyone is fine with being on the operation, given how the Eldians will be treated after this. Pieck understands, but Magarth left the warriors with a final order to work together, and she and Reiner intends to see it through. Hange uses the opening to suggest riding the cart titan's shoulders, but Pieck refuses, leading to a snide comment from Levi. Hange asks him if he thinks their dead comrades are watching them, but Levi instead tells them to not start thinking like him. As the engineers get ready to fuel, Flock drags himself into the hangar after having clung onto the ship ever since it left Paradis. He shoots the flying boat several times, damaging the fuel tank, before Mikasa kills him by shooting a hook from her vertical maneuvering gear into his neck. One of the engineers says he can repair it in 1 hour, but as he reaches for a pair of pliers, the ground begins to shake, signaling the arrival of the rumbling. With his dying breath, Flock tries to convince Jean and Hange not to go, or everyone on the island will be killed. Hange agrees, but says they cannot give up. Armin volunteers to stay behind and slow the wall of titans, but Reiner calls him their only hope for stopping Eren, and says that he will be the one. Hange interrupts them to say that they cannot afford to use up any more of their titans. Since Hange was the only one who led them up until this point, she will be the one to take responsibility for staying behind. Hange appoints Armin, the 15th commander of the Survey Corps, citing his unyielding desire for understanding, and then sends their former soldiers on their way. Levi catches Hange as they turn to go, and Hange says that it's now their turn. Levi sets his fist against Hange's chest and tells her to devote her heart. Hange then leaves to face the Titans. The Titans get close, but Hange kills enough of them with their blades and thunder spears, allowing the flying boat to finish repairing and fueling. Hange's cloak catches fire from the sheer heat of the Wall Titans as the group hustles the flying boat out to the water. Levi says farewell as they take off, and Hange finally falls. Hange wakes up, lying in the footprint of a Wall Titan. She immediately asks about the flying boat, only for Erwin to tell her that it took off. Surprised, Hange sees the fallen members of their Survey Corps standing around her. Hange asks Erwin if they know how much trouble they went through because they named her commander. Erwin agrees that it must have been a lot, but they are all now here to listen. The flying boat ride is uneasy for its passengers as Onion Kopon flies it towards Fort Salter. They were only able to fuel it halfway before leaving, but he promises Armin that he will get them there no matter what, and asks Armin to promise to stop the rumbling. Armin agrees and tells Onion Kopon that he is counting on him. In the passenger hold, Armin holds a meeting with Levi, Pieck, Reiner, Mikasa, and Connie. He sketches an approximation of Eren's founding titan based on Levi and Pieck's description of it, but both of them point out that they cannot be certain whether or not Eren is locked in its nape due to his possession of the Warhammer Titan's power. Pieck says even if they do not know where he is, they have the option to blow away the entire founding titan if Armin uses his colossal titan in the same way he did during the raid on Liberio, when he completely destroyed the poor and left nothing behind. Though unhappy about the memory, Armin agrees that it would be the most effective way to kill Eren, but he wants to save that as a last resort if they fail to have a conversation with him. Levi is fine with that, and as an alternative, he suggests that they kill Zeke since the connection with Zeke is what allows Eren to control the founding titan. Though he does not know where Zeke is, Levi is willing to find him inside Eren's titan if the group will help him. Jean agrees to do whatever it takes, pointing out that they have killed many of their former comrades to get this far, and they cannot allow their lives to go to waste. This causes Connie to remember killing Samuel and Daz while they called him a traitor and said that they were saving the world. He tells Reiner that it must have been awful for him, Bertolt, and Annie. Reiner doubts he could ever forgive himself no matter what he does, but he puts his hand on Connie's shoulder to comfort him and suggests that they should at least save humanity. At first, Connie is stricken, but agrees that they should still do so. Jean regrets blaming Reiner for the things that he did when he eventually became a murderer himself to save people. Reiner says that Eren told him the same thing the night of the raid on Liberio. He feels that he understands some of Eren's thinking, and that Eren might want them to stop him. This prompts Armin to bring up the fact that Eren has yet to restrict their ability to act, even though he has the power to control every Eldian. They begin to discuss why that might be, when suddenly the 7 of them are summoned into the paths. Armin tries shouting into the emptiness to communicate with Eren, suggesting that he has already done enough damage to keep Paradis Island safe for centuries, and it should be possible to stand down. His friends join him in trying to shoulder the blame and make things better between them and Eren. Eren's disembodied voice informs them that the rumbling will not stop, and he will not leave Paradis's fate to chance. Levi spots a figure in the center of the paths, and Eren's friends begin running towards it, only to be surprised to see that it is a childhood version of Eren. Armin asks why Eren is still letting them use their powers, and if they can finally take the time to talk now that they are in the pass, but Eren shuts down any possibility of diplomacy. He's choosing to take freedom away from the world to keep his own, but will not take any away from them, so they are free to do what they want, even if it is opposing him. However, as long as they have different unbreakable convictions, they will not be obligated to fight. Now, close enough, his friends are able to see the younger Eren standing alongside Ymir, with the same shadowed look in his eyes. He reveals that he only called them here to let them know that there is no need to speak. If they want to stop the rumbling, they will have to kill him. Back on the plane, Onyankopon sees everyone rouse themselves from their trip to the paths. Since negotiations are out, Levi turns to his new commander and asks Armin what they should do now. On his ship, Kiyomi tells Annie that they will be travelling to Hizuru, though she doubts her homeland is in any condition to operate as a country. Kiyomi is burdened by the fact that she was the one who enabled Eren and Zeke to meet, so Annie asks her what she would have done differently. Rather than rewrite the past, Kiyomi accepts that it happened and cannot be changed, but she wonders why it is not possible to notice something as simple as respect for others until it is lost. Annie remembers her father asking her to come home, Peak being a friend to her while they were training to be warriors, pranks with the 104th while they were in the training corps, and finally her bond with Armin. She says it is too late as Gabbie and Falco come up alongside her. Falco explains that he saw a memory belonging to Zeke, much like how the female titan can obtain abilities from other titans by taking in parts of their bodies. They believe the same has happened to Falco due to the fact that it was Zeke's spinal fluid that transformed him into a titan. This explains the bestial appearance of his jaw titan compared to the previous inheritors. The clearest memory Falco saw is one of flying above the clouds. He believes that that is something that he can do, and that at one point there was a beast titan with wings. He and Gabbie came over to tell Annie that they are leaving. Annie is vehemently against it, afraid that they will sink the ship and concerned about the fact that Falco has never been in control of his titan. But Kiyomi tells her that she does not mind if the ship sinks, if the alternative is living with more regrets. Elsewhere, on a train bound for Fort Salter, Mr. Leonhardt is armed with a rifle as he watches a skeptical Marleyan engineer and reminds him who to thank for not being flattened by the rumbling. Though the engineer does not have much hope of them stealing an airship, helping them is the only chance he has to save his family, who are on the train with the Eldian refugees. In the cargo cars of the train, others stand watch over the engineer's family, and many more are cowered, sitting on the floor. Falco's parents try to reassure Gabbie's that the two kids are likely with Reiner and Colt, but Gabbie's parents are horrified by the thought of her being on an island of devils. They wish their kids had never become warriors so that they could be with them at the end. Karina overhears them and looks down. Nearby, a young man suggests that Finger throw away his armband, but he is reluctant to do so, since his daughter sacrificed everything to earn it for him. Outside the train, the airships begin lifting out of Fort Salter. Anxious, Mr. Leonhardt tells the engineer to hurry, as they only need one airship for them all to escape. Meanwhile, smoke is spotted from the train and its passengers realise that the rumbling has finally caught up with them. The airships move to engage and the engineer becomes hopeful, realising that their plan is to bomb the Wall of Titans from high above where the ships themselves cannot be reached. Elsewhere on Paradis, in her cabin, surrounded by attendants, Historia goes into labour. Elsewhere in the world, the people of various nations are being flattened by the advancing wall of Titans. In Mali, the Eldian refugees from Liberio and their Marleyan engineers arrive at Fort Salter, only to discover that the Marleyan military has launched all of the airships, leaving them no means to escape. Above them, the squadron of airships serves as a final line of defense against the Titans. The fort commander uses a loudspeaker to address his soldiers, and is heard by those on the ground below. He acknowledges the desperation of their circumstances and how their long years of justifying their hatred gave birth to the monster that they now face. If they see tomorrow, he will not make that same mistake again. His words reach Karina, who remembers Reiner's childhood years and how he became a warrior to make her happy. She falls to her knees as she realizes how she had used her son and turned him into a tool for revenge. Leonhardt kneels beside her, knowing exactly how she feels. The fort spots movement from the attack titan, and a glow appears between the spines on its back. This prompts the commander to prematurely call for a bombardment out of the fear that they will be too late, but the airship's altitude is too high and the squadron is too spread out to do the damage that they had hoped for. Between their spines, dangling from their strands of flesh, is a partially formed furry titan. It clenches its hands and hurls fists full of debris up at the airship squadron, breaching their explosives. Now fully formed as the Beast Titan, it continues its volleys until it succeeds in destroying the entire squadron. The refugees sink into despair, and Mr. Leonhardt tries to take comfort in the idea that Annie and Reiner are alive on Paradis Island. Karina agrees and says that is enough for her, as they will wait for the end. But one of the children with them spots a flying boat suddenly heading their way. Onyankopon on the boat struggles with the controls since they are almost out of fuel. Armin wants Onyankopon to come with them since they are about to jump, but Onyankopon insists on flying them right above the founding titan and plans to make an emergency landing afterward. The Beast Titan hurls debris at the flying boat and Onyankopon tries to dodge, but their left wing is hit and the pontoon broken off. The passengers in the hold are rattled around, and though he cannot see exactly what happened, Levi realizes that the barrage means that the Beast Titan is here. Since they no longer need to search for Zeke, Armin calls out the Beast Titan as the target of their attack. When Onyankopon gets them in close enough, the combined Survey Corps and Warrior unit jump out from the flying boat. The Beast Titan tries killing them with another shot of debris, but Reiner dives in front and transforms into the Armored Titan. He grabs the Beast Titan and slams it down onto the backbone of the Founding Titan. Meanwhile, the Survey Corps shoot their hooks of their vertical maneuvering equipment into the nearest spine to arrest their fall. Peak lands last, transforming into the Cart Titan and holding a long belt of explosives. The refugees are surprised to see that the warriors have returned and with enemy forces from Paradis, and Karina is in tears knowing that her son is here. As the head of Eren's Titan turns back to look at them, Armin says that he only has one more question for him. What is it about Eren that is free? He can answer that after they force him out. In the middle of the night, 2,000 years ago, Ymir Fritz releases a group of pigs from their pen. Atop Eren's Titan, Ymir watches as Reiner defeats the Beast Titan she had constructed. As the Beast Titan dissolves, Levi realizes that Zeke is not inside it. Aghast at the idea of searching Eren's entire Titan for Zeke, Jean and Armin agree that Armin should transform into his colossal Titan and use the resulting explosion and its devastation as a means of locating Zeke. Mikasa begins to object, but Armin reassures her that the explosion will not be large enough to kill Eren, reminding himself that he must be willing to make sacrifices to achieve his goals. Armin steels himself and prepares to transform. The group begins trying to retreat to a safe distance, but turn around to see Armin is being devoured by a Titan. As Armin is being swallowed, he is caught off guard at the sight of Ymir watching him in the distance. The group tries to return to him, but is blocked away by an army of Titans that materialize on Eren's back. Outside Fort Salter, Leonhardt and a group of Liberio survivors pull Onyankopon from the wreckage of the flying boat. Desperate for news from Paradis, Mr. Leonhardt tries to wake Onyankopon to ask him about Annie. In Salter's control tower, the Marleyan generals orders his remaining soldiers to fire cannons at the Titans. His soldiers point out that they only have enough men remaining to fire 3 cannons, but the general insists that they do whatever they can to help. Reiner is quickly slammed by 3 of the Titans and is saved by Jean, Mikasa and Connie. Jean quickly realizes that the Titans are behaving too intelligently to be pure Titans. Connie begins to panic over Armin, but Levi reassures him, pointing out that Armin would have transformed if he had sustained injury. Levi assumes that Armin is being transported to the back of Eren's Titan, where he will not be able to do any harm, but advises his squad not to brashly rush after him. Levi suggests using himself as a distraction for his squad to pursue Armin, but Peak stops him by revealing that the Titans they are facing are resurrected versions of the 9 Titans from throughout the ages. Theorizing that the power of the Founding Titan can infinitely respawn copies of the 9 Titans, Peak chooses to charge Eren's nape alone in an attempt to blow it up with the bombs from the flying boat. As Peak manages to set the bombs and prepares to detonate them, her Titan is impaled by a resurrected shell of Lara's Warhammer Titan. Reiner tries to help Peak, but is attacked from behind by Porco's Jaw Titan. Jean tries to help Reiner, but is nearly eaten by Marcel's Jaw Titan, only narrowly being saved by Levi. Levi orders his squad to make a push for Armin, as they no longer have any way of winning without him. Inside the Titan that devoured Armin, he begins to suffocate and wonders if Eren is going to kill him. Remembering the glimpse he caught of Ymir, Armin realizes that she is likely the one responsible for the massive Titan resistance with which the allies are being met. Theorizing that Ymir also wants humanity to be wiped out, Armin despairs, lamenting that Ymir is too powerful for them to oppose. Unable to move, Armin sees a vision of a crying Berthold. After which, a resurrected shell of Berthold's colossal titan assaults the group on Eren's back, nearly devouring Reiner before he is rescued by Jean. The colossal flings Reiner's inert titan at the rest of the squad. Connie is knocked unconscious by the impact, and Mikasa is forced to guard his body from the attacking titans, while Levi is too weak from his injuries to be of any more assistance. Both Jean and Reiner's maneuvering equipment are too damaged for use, and they are left hanging helplessly from Eren's titan. As Mikasa defends them from nearby titans, Reiner orders Jean to let him go so he can transform again, but Jean points out he will just be crushed by the underside of the foot by the colossal titans marching beneath Eren's founding titan. Reiner asks Jean if he thinks they will be able to win, and Jean admits that they probably will not. Nevertheless though, he reiterates his desire to keep fighting. Mikasa sees another titan attempting to eat Connie, but it's too far away to reach him. Gathering the last of his strength, Levi manages to slice the titan's eyes and blind it. However, the titan bites down on his legs before he can escape. Mikasa slices the titan's nape before it can crush Levi's leg, and Connie regains consciousness in time to save Levi from falling to his death. Mikasa and Connie return to Jean and Reiner with Levi as the army of titans begin to surround them. Growing desperate, Mikasa prepares to make a last stand against the titans. However, a winged titan suddenly appears and whisks the group away at a pace too swift for the encroaching titans to catch them. As the titan flies them to safety, the bewildered soldiers are greeted by Annie, who proclaims that she was unable to stay away from battle after learning that Falco's jaw titan had the ability to fly. As they continue to watch the advancing titans from Fort Salter, the Marleyan survivors are shocked by the sight of a titan flying away from the founding titan with people riding it. Reiner tries to scold Gabbie for putting herself in danger, but Gabbie is adamant that she and Falco can help. Annie explains that the Azumabito's family ship sank due to Falco's transformation, but reassures Mikasa that its inhabitants are still all alive. Kiyomi was okay with letting her boat sink, and Gabbie proclaims that they must stop the rumbling in order to repay her. Moved by Gabbie's words, Reiner asks Falco if the boy remembers the promise he made to him to save Gabbie, and Falco says that he does. Mikasa tells Annie that Armin has been taken by a titan near the founding titan's tailbone, and Annie agrees to help get him back. Reiner explains that Peak was last seen near the founding titan's nape, where she wrapped her explosives, but the Warhammer titan had stopped her from blowing it up. Levi says that they will split up into two groups to rescue their missing members, and that they are no longer in position where they can be concerned about Eren's well-being. Mikasa begins to object, but Connie points out that they would have died if not for Falco's titan. He does not want to give up on Eren either, but they are fighting the founding titan, and they cannot go easy on it. Gritting his teeth, Jean tells Mikasa that they need to kill Eren. Mikasa looks in shock, but Annie grabs her and tells her to focus on rescuing Armin, and not to think about anything else, and Mikasa weakly agrees. Gabbie then tells everyone what she saw when she decapitated Eren in the Shiganashina district. Something that resembled a shining centipede jumped out of his spine to reconnect with his head. She thinks that there was actually the founding titan, and if that is part of the nature of its power, it could happen again if they decapitate him a second time. On the ground below, Marleyan soldiers see Falco heading back to the founding titan and decide that they will help even if they can only put a cannon or two, but they stop when they see the Eldian refugees from Liberio. Both sides prepare to shoot each other, but Annie's father tries to mediate and get help for the wounded. Despite his attempts, the situation escalates and the sound of gunfire resounds from the fort, loud enough for the riders on Falco's back to hear. Continuing with the plan, Falco speeds up to dodge the arrow barrage fired by a line of Warhammer titans. Jean and Reiner jump off near the front of the founding titan as its first team. Reiner transforms into the armored titan to get the attention of the various Warhammers, leaving Jean free to head to the nape and detonate the explosives. However, multiple jaw titans emerge from the founder's body to block him. Closer to the nape, Peg escapes the body of her impaled cart titan and transforms again to strike the Warhammer titan that attacked her. She succeeds in killing it and moves on to assist Jean. Each time, her titan form becomes too badly damaged and she is forced to escape and transform again and again. With the cart titan's endurance, she can keep fighting, transforming hundreds of times. She tells Jean not to worry about her and blow up the nape. only to see that he is already way ahead of her. At the end of the Founding Titan, Mikasa helps pick out the Titan that swallowed Armin, a beast Titan that resembles an Okapi. Connie, Annie, and Mikasa jump down to face it, with Annie transforming into the female Titan. Still on Falco's back, Levi ponders Zeke's location while acknowledging that even if he found him, he might not be able to kill him. He thinks back to his final conversation with Erwin, when he promised to slay the Beast Titan, and how he had never failed an order until his last one. Levi wonders if his veteran comrades would have devoted their hearts to a world that tramples others, and concludes that they have envisioned a more idealized and innocent world, because if it was not, it would not have been worth what they had given up. Seeing the Okapi Titan running away, Annie assists Mikasa with a swing to hurl her in its direction. Other Titans bodily block Mikasa's way and she fights through them, but at least one of them is an armored Titan, breaking her blades. Annie decapitates it though with her kick, but also spots that the Okapi is heading for Bertholdt's colossal Titan. Before they can pursue it, the trio is surrounded by additional Titans again. Confused, Armin looks down at his own body and wonders why it will not move, since if he does not, everyone else is going to die. He berates his comatose body and how he had failed to live up to everything expected of him. Frustrated, he pounds his fists into the ground by his body and realizes that there is sand beneath his hands. He takes a step back to rationalize his current situation and realizes that he is not dead and this is not a dream. Rather, he is in the path, so he is in reality. But even though he is in a Titan's mouth, he notices he is aware of everything that the rest of the team is doing, possibly because they are all connected through the path. Armin tries to think of how to best take advantage of this when he spots Zeke sitting on the ground, building a mound of sand. Armin greets him, and Zeke comments that it appears that Ymir has eaten him as well. As both Zeke and Armin reside within the paths, the film begins to tell the latter a story about how life was able to form a long time ago due to the desire for it to multiply. However, it also dealt with the fear of death and extermination, eventually leading to the point where Ymir gave birth to an undying body, and escaped to a world that was free of death. Armin asks what Ymir's ultimate goal is, and Zeke admits he does not know, even after spending so much time trying to understand her. He wonders why Ymir never defied King Fritz and remained obedient to his wishes for 2,000 years. Eren was able to understand her attachment to the world she left behind, when Zeke himself did not, leading to Ymir to go with him. When Armin asks if there is still some way to get back to the world outside, Zeke thinks that it is impossible. He asks Armin why he refuses to give up, and if continuing his species is that important to him. What is happening now is the result of life forms controlled by fear. Armin protests that he and his friends are fighting fear, but Zeke is unmoved, because living means one day dying. He speculates that death might even bring relief from the days of being manipulated by the drive to multiply. Armin glances down and notices a leaf in the sand. Picking it up, he tells Zeke of a childhood memory when Eren challenged him and Mikasa to a race to a tree on a hill. While he had no chance of winning, Armin reflects on how running felt good to him, and he wonders if he was born so that he could be in a race. He has had other similar memories of small personal moments that he has come to regard as precious. However, to Zeke's surprise, Armin is not holding a leaf, but a baseball. When Armin says that his memories are precious even though they are unnecessary for a species to multiply, Zeke agrees, thinking back to his time playing catch with Tom. He takes the baseball from Armin and looks at it fondly. He says that he would much rather have continued playing catch. Noticing Armin looking at something behind him, Zeke turns around to see many former Titan inheritors, including Marcel and Porco, Ymir, Eren, Tom, and Grisha. Meanwhile, Pieck is injured outside of her Titan and Jean saves her. Though she wishes to keep fighting, he says she is at her limit and plans to retreat towards Reiner. However, the armored Titan has been pinned down by the previous Warhammer Titans, with one arm having a sickle preparing to finish it off. Further towards the back, near Bertholdt's colossal Titan, Annie is overwhelmed by several of the Titans. Suddenly, Bertholdt's colossal Titan attacks the Titans swarming Annie, swatting them aside. Pieck, Jean, and Reiner witness Marcel, Porco, and Ymir's Jaw Titans biting and fighting off the Titans surrounding them. Though Mikasa does not know what to make of Bertholdt's colossal Titan, she decides not to waste the opportunity and chases after the Okapi-shaped Beast Titan. From the back of Falco's flying jaw titan, Gabbie flies around into the Okapi's head and manages to stun it, allowing Mikasa to free Armin by slashing the titan's jaw open. Armin falls out and the beast titan's tongue shoots through his leg and grabs him. He fires a thunder spear into its head, killing it, and Connie cuts him free of the falling corpse, with Annie then being able to catch him. Behind Annie, the Survey Corps is shocked to see that several of the Titans are fighting each other. Zeke partially emerges from one of the Founding Titan's spines and waves to Falco's Titan, calling out to Levi. Armin explains that the current turn of events is thanks to Zeke, who woke up everyone who was sleeping in the paths. He thinks that the reason all Eldians are connected through the paths is because Ymir Fritz wants to be connected to them. She just wants something. In the paths, Zeke told Tom that he did not think that their plan was mistaken, but he would not mind being reborn if it meant he could play catch with him again. He also thanked his father, Grisha. Armin took the time to speak with Bertold about how he took everything from him, so he knows that they cannot stay here. They ask the others to help before leaving. On the spine, Zeke takes a moment to appreciate how beautiful the day is and wishes he had noticed it earlier, but supposes that that is too much to ask because of all the killing that he has done in his life. In the next moment, he is quickly beheaded by Levi, and the rumbling stops with the Wall Titans coming to a halt. At Reiner's urging, Jean rushes for the head and grabs the detonator that Pieck left behind. Calling Eren a suicidal blockhead once more, Jean detonates the explosives, blowing off the Founding Titan's head. Jean then spots the centipede-like creature Gabbie had spoken about earlier emerging from the neck, trying to reconnect with Eren's head. Reiner hurls himself at the expanding spine and wrestles it to the ground, keeping it from the severed head. Falco, now carrying nearly all of their group, picks up Jean and Pieck so Armin can blow up the Founding Titan's body with everyone else clear. Jean is worried about Reiner, but Pieck says that the Armored Titan can withstand the Colossal Titan's explosion. Reiner is prepared for the consequences and that they should not be able to waste this opportunity. As Falco flies away, Armin thanks his friends and the Titan inheritors for their help. He then says goodbye to Eren before transforming. The rumbling has stopped and Falco lands his Titan by the cliff on the outskirts of Fort Salter. As his passengers marvel at the collapse of Eren's Founding Titan, Mikasa experiences a headache. She remembers Eren's story about how the Ackerman clan experienced headaches upon awakening and becoming slaves who followed orders. Despite claiming he had always hated her, Mikasa finds herself unwilling to accept that could be the last time they would ever meet. Looking at the people outside the fort, Gabbie and Pieck recognize and reunite with their parents. Falco joins us as well when he exits his Titan. As he stands with the other surviving members of their Survey Corps, Connie admits he has regrets, but speculates that they did the right thing. After learning that her father was the one who led the Eldians of Liberio here, Annie runs off to find him. Gabbie tells Karina that Reiner is still fighting, and the group, still at the edge of the cliff, looks over it in search of Reiner and the shining centipede he was fighting. They see that he has survived, but so did the centipede. Armin's Colossal Titan climbs out of the crater formed by his transformation and follows Reiner towards the centipede, which is now by the base of the cliff. Behind Armin, the light of a Titan transformation flashes and Eren's new Titan appears, skinless and as tall as the Colossus. The survivors of the cliff realize that Eren cannot be allowed to come into contact with the centipede and that they will have to kill it or Eren. Pieck and Falco say farewell to their parents in preparation for one last mission. Mikasa clutches her throbbing head as she also wonders how things have turned out this way. As Reiner approaches the centipede, it emits gas from the pores on its body. The gas rises up over the cliff and sweeps over the fort and the people around it. The people are confused, with Mikasa wondering if they died, but Connie is the one who figures out that it is similar to the gas used to transform the people of Ragako village. Recognizing the danger, Levi orders Mikasa and Pieck to climb on Falco, who is still connected to his Titan. The four of them are immune to the gas since they are either Ackermans or have the power of the Titans. Falco carries them aloft, though Pieck has to be held by Mikasa because she does not want to leave her father. Jean and Connie watch them go, entrusting them with the rest, as the previous members of their Survey Corps had done. Connie asks Jean if he remembers the night of their entrance ceremony, and good-naturedly blames them for getting them stuck with the job of saving the world. A moment later, all Eldians in the vicinity of Fort Salter are transformed into mindless Titans. They careen off the edge of a cliff and rush towards the centipede. Despite the fact it had summoned reinforcements, Reiner steels himself to prevent it from reaching Eren. Behind him, Armin faces Eren and the two gigantic titans grapple. Reiner wrestles with the centipede, and to his horror, he recognizes some of the titans around him. As Falco dives towards the fray, Pieck jumps off his back and transforms, biting onto the head of the centipede. Annie arrives as well, attempting to pull the centipede back. As Falco flies towards Armin and Eren, Mikasa's headache intensifies. Levi tries to get her to stay aware of her surroundings, since they are the only ones who can kill Eren, but she does not think she can take any more of it and wishes she was back home. While Mikasa is sleeping, she feels a hand on her shoulder and a voice telling her to wake up. She opens her eyes to see a concerned Eren telling her that she will catch a cold. For a moment she is confused and asks when she fell asleep. She thinks she must have had a long dream. Eren notices that she is crying and does not know why. She wonders if it is okay for her to be here. Eren tells her that there is nothing that they can do about it. They ran away from the war with Marley, and it has been 2 months since it ended. The war to invade Paradis will start soon. Eren concludes that running away is the only way to survive. He could not commend Historia or commit genocide against the people outside the walls, so he should live out the last 4 years of his life in peace with Mikasa, as of course she was the one who suggested it. Mikasa smiles and Eren asks her for one last promise, to throw out her scarf and forget about him once he is dead, as she has a long life ahead of her. Marks suddenly then appear on his cheek as if he has been inside a titan. Outside, the battle is going poorly. Armin is battered by Eren, and Reiner and Annie are being overwhelmed. Mikasa reaches in her shirt and pulls out her scarf. She wraps it around her neck and apologizes to Eren, saying that she cannot forgive him. Mikasa tells Levi and Falco that Eren is in his titan's mouth and to go back her up, as she will finish off the job. Just after Eren punches through the colossal titan's head, Levi shoots a thunder spear into the teeth of Eren's titan, creating an opening barely large enough for a person to fly through. Mikasa lands inside, blade drawn, and spots Eren's head on the end of a long spine. She swings her blade, severing his head from the spine. As this happens, Eren sits on a bench as though he has gone to sleep. Mikasa cradles his head and tells him that she will see him later. In the real world, she kisses him farewell as Ymir looks on and smiles. Inside the paths, Armin and Eren discuss recent events with each other. Although Armin understands that the Attack Titan's future memories coerced Eren into acting the way he did, he still insists that the beating Eren gave him in Nicolo's restaurant was too far. Eren attempts to apologize, admitting that he only did it so that he could distance himself from his friends. But Armin interrupts him to point out that Mikasa is the only one who deserves an apology. Armin asks if he ostracized his friends in order to set them up as humanity's heroes, which Eren confirms. Eren reasons that because Eldians from Paradis Island chose to oppose the rumbling, the outside world would be indebted to them. Armin points out that the outside world might still retaliate, but Eren reveals that the rumbling has wiped out 80% of the entire world's population, leaving all foreign nations unable to launch any kind of retaliation for the complete and utter foreseeable future. Horrified, Armin asks if this was really necessary to go to such lengths, but Eren ignores him. Instead, Eren asks Armin to follow him. Eren takes Armin to an erupting volcano to show him that this is liquid fire, better known as lava. The two discuss Ymir Fritz, and Eren muses on the fact that the woman remained servile to King Fritz even centuries after her death. Armin is perplexed as to why, and Eren reveals that he met Ymir in the paths. Although he is bemused by the information himself, Eren reveals to Armin that he has come to understand that Ymir continued obeying Fritz because she had come to love him. The two proceed to a new era, covered in snow, and Eren claims he was not able to learn anything else about Ymir's mindset other than she desired freedom. According to Eren, Ymir waited thousands of years for someone to come and free her from the love that she had felt from Fritz. That person was actually Mikasa. Armin was shocked by this, wondering why Mikasa is so important to Ymir, but Eren claims that only Ymir herself would know that. Eren says that the only thing he is certain of is that everything that they have been through, the rumbling, the infighting of Paradis, and the endangerment of all of his friends occurred solely so that Mikasa could free Ymir. Eren says that his memories from both the past and the future have been affecting his ability to think clearly, as all of his experiences seem to be occurring at the same time. To Armin's horror, Eren reveals that he himself sent Dina's Titan to eat Carla the day the wall fell, because that was the only way he knew history was supposed to occur. Cutting his friend off, Armin invites Eren to accompany him somewhere else. The two visit the ocean together, and Armin asks Eren if he thinks Mikasa will move on from him. He punches Eren in the face, asking him if he actually believes that telling Mikasa to forget about him will make up for the way he treated her the last time they spoke. Armin jokes that Mikasa will find someone else to replace Eren, causing him to break down and admit that he does not want Mikasa to have feelings for anyone other than him. After composing himself, Eren admits to Armin that he does not want to die. Armin encourages him to remain hopeful that they will find a way to keep him alive, but Eren insists that he will never be forgiven for what he has done. The ocean scenery turns into a vision of trampled land strewn with corpses, as Eren admits even if he had not known he would have been stopped, he would have still caused the rumbling in order to create a new world outside the walls. Armin asks him why, and Eren admits that he does not actually know. Eren tells Armin that it is time for them to part, and that he will temporarily erase his memories of their conversation. Once their final fight is over, Eren promises him that they will remember their conversation. Armin gives Eren a shell and thanks him for taking on the world's hatred for Paradis' sake. The two embrace a final time, and Eren tells Armin that even though he does not know what will happen after his death, he is sure that his friends will do whatever is necessary to save humanity. Annie's voice then calls Armin back to reality while he is sailing on the boat to Odiha, with no memory of the conversation he had with Eren. Back in the battle at Fort Salter, Armin awakes to find that he can now remember his last conversation with Eren. Hearing Mikasa's voice, he turns and is heartbroken to see her carrying Eren's decapitated head. As Armin weeps for his friend, Mikasa asks him if his memories have returned. Armin confirms that they have, and he now remembers that Mikasa's choice to free Ymir caused the power of the Titans to disappear. Jean, awakening in his human form once again, mourns Eren's death along with Reiner. Connie recalls through tears that Eren promised that his mother would also be returned to normal. Annie reunites with her father, and Falco and Gabbie happily greet each other. Levi rests against a rock where he sees a vision of his fallen comrades watching him. The fallen members of the Survey Corps salute him, and Levi salutes them back. Reiner finds his mother and reveals that he no longer has his Armored Titan's power. To his surprise, she is thrilled by the news and embraces him while apologizing. Mikasa tells Armin that she is going to leave to give Eren a proper burial. Mikasa suggests taking his head to the place where he liked to sleep as a child, and Armin agrees and prepares to reunite with the other Eldians. Muller arrives with a group of Marleyan soldiers to comfort the Eldians. Mr. Leonhardt tells the secretary that Eren is dead and the power of the Titans has been eliminated from the world, but Muller demands that he provide proof. Leonhardt tries to suggest a blood test, but Muller insists that they will all be killed unless they can provide immediate proof that they can no longer be turned into Titans. Before the situation escalates, Armin prevents himself to the secretary. Armin points out that the Eldians gathered would be using their Titan powers to defend themselves and their loved ones from the Marleyans if they still had the ability to transform. The fact that they are doing nothing in response to Muller's threats should be enough to prove that they are powerless. Muller orders his men to lower their weapons and asks Armin who he is. Armin claims that he is the man who killed Eren Yeager. As Mikasa departs into the vapor from the fallen Titan bodies, she sees the apparition of Ymir. Understanding that Ymir's love for Fritz was a torment that she cannot undo, she instead thanks Ymir for bringing life into the world which allowed for her to be born. Mikasa wishes Ymir a good rest as she continues on her way home to Paradis. 3 years after the so-called Battle of Heaven and Earth, the survivors of the battle embark to Paradis as ambassadors for Marley begin peace negotiations with Paradis. As they sail for the island, they read a letter from Historia which explains that the remaining Yeagerists have formed an army to defend Paradis from the threat of the outside world. Reiner admires the letter, causing Jean to reprimand him for lusting after a married woman. Peak notes that Jean himself seems to be concerned about his looks, but Jean claims that he only wants to look good for the history books. and he tells the group that they are nearing Paradis and asks Armin if it is truly a good idea for the people who betrayed Paradis and killed Eren to act as peace ambassadors for the island. Connie insists that they should trust Historia since she chose to protect his and Jean's families from the other islanders. Armin argues once the people of Paradis see friend and foe walking side by side, they will want to know what caused them to work together. Outside Shingeki, Mikasa sits by the tree that Eren used to sleep under. She tells his makeshift grave that their friends will soon arrive to visit him. As she remembers their childhood, she begins to cry, wishing to see him again. Her weeping is then interrupted by a bird, which grabs her scarf and tightens it around her neck once more before flying away. As she watches the bird fly away, Mikasa thanks Eren for wrapping the scarf around her one last time. Years later, Mikasa comes to visit her grave with her new family while civilization on Paradis advances. She eventually passes away from old age and is buried with Eren's scarf. As the years pass, the tree overlooking Eren's grave grows larger in size. Some length of time after Mikasa's death, war finally comes to Paradis, and Shingeki is bombed into a desolate ruin. Many long years after Paradis is destroyed and a forest has overtaken the ruins, a lone child and his dog come across Eren's tree, now titanic in its size. Well, that officially brings us to the very end of probably one of the greatest series in anime of all time, or at least over the past 10 years in my own opinion, of everything that I've read, which isn't a lot, but still I honestly think Attack on Titan is something that pretty much everyone should go out and read, even if they have watched the anime still, as I don't think the anime is going to completely cover everything that happens throughout your, like obviously these last chapters here, so I do recommend that everyone do go and pick up the chapters themselves and check it out, as the story was something else and reading through it here was absolutely amazing, so I hope you have all enjoyed the video. Make sure you do go down to the comment section below and leave a comment and let me know what you thought about the ending of the series in general and what you thought your favourite part was perhaps throughout this last arc here, as honestly I think Jean, like surviving to the very end is probably one of the happiest things to me. Seeing Jean, from the very beginning, and like his relationship with Ryan to like grow throughout this last kind of arc here, and just everything that he's gone through since the very beginning of the series. I know he is part of the main group, but he's also like kind of this like little add-on outside of the main three, which is obviously Mikasa, Eren, and Armin. So I really am happy to see that Jean, has survived along with Connie, and Connie's mum's come back, and everyone's like kind of happy at the end of the story at least. Apart from, Eren obviously dying. So obviously I want to know what you all think about the end of the story. It's super controversial and there are some things that I'm not super happy about, and I may make a video on it on the future. Just kind of going over what I really think about the ending of the entire story itself, because I don't think that the ending is actually taking away at all from what the story is and what it has done, as the story itself was sublime. Like, it was amazing. It's something like, it had me in tears at specific points. The emotion that the author has put into, like his characters, and you can see it like in their eyes in each and every panel when there's like some kind of distress going on. You can just see it, and it's amazing, and I like have an utter respect for Isayama and what he has done with the story, and I hope you guys all do as well. So obviously go and check out the manga as per usual, and support the creator of the manga, as they completely and utterly deserve it in this aspect. And if you have enjoyed the video, like I've said, make sure you drop a comment down below, and if you are new around here and want to keep up to date with anime series and just like story videos explained for a whole bunch of different anime series, then make sure you do hit that subscribe button, and also be sure to leave a like on the video. And honestly, I also want to give a big shout out to all of my Patreons who have, subbed over the last, I guess, month now, since all my videos started to get taken down. They will all be back up in the next, 3 or 4 days or so after this video comes out, which will be perfect. So I can't wait to see them back up. So, I thank you all for the support, and honestly, I don't know what I'd do without you guys. But yeah, anyway, for now, it's been your professional degenerate, Diavolo, and I will see you all in a bit. Bye.